Dan Gordon will unleash the superhero in you. In each episode, Dan will challenge and inspire you to be the greatest version of yourself. Dan takes you into the minds of the world's most innovative thinkers, unlocking their secrets for living fearlessly and achieving massive personal success. So get ready for Shock to the System. Please welcome your host, the coach's coach, Dan Gordon.
Right now, in this moment, you have the power to live your life unlimited. Shock to the System is about pulling back the curtain on your world and discovering what you're truly capable of achieving. Today, I promise to open your mind, to set your thinking on fire, to show you your superhero self that you've been hiding from yourself. Come with me and let's enter a new reality where your success can happen in an instant. Strap in. We're putting a shock to your system. Let's go. I'm going to share with you the truth. It's a truth that most people don't want to believe, but it's also the truth that will set you free. Here it is. There's no amount of money, no amount of success, and no amount of personal achievement that will make you feel good about yourself. Now, I know. You're certain that achieving your goals will make you happy. They won't. This thinking is what I call the Emerald City Complex. Just like in The Wizard of Oz, it's a belief that there's a place you can get to in life where all of your problems are solved and you're happy. But your Emerald City doesn't exist. If you're miserable now, you'll just be a miserable wealthy person later. Your life, as it is in this moment, is actually a mirror of what you believe about yourself on the inside. If you're experiencing low income or unhappy relationships, it's not the result of bad luck or even bad choices. It's the result of your beliefs about you manifesting themselves in the real world. That's why there's no amount of money, success, education, or social media exposure that will make you feel better until you first transform your thinking about who you are. So how do you do that? It begins by taking responsibility for everything. And this is not easy. The boss who didn't give you a raise, you created it. That jerk who cheated on you, you created it. Your low income, your high stress, and even the guy who ran the red light and slammed into your car, you created it. Yeah, I know. You have a mountain of evidence to prove that all of these things were done to you, that it's not your fault. And you're right. It's not your fault, but you did create it. This thinking is the foundation of every successful person in history. From George Washington to Dr. King to Mother Teresa and Elon Musk and on and on and on, they all accepted the truth that they created everything in their world, and in doing so, instantly gained the power to recreate their world in any way they wanted it. You have the capability to be any measure of success you choose, to change your life or change the world. It begins by accepting the responsibility that you created everything in your life, especially the things that hold you back. These places that hold you back are the stories you tell yourself as to why you can't have the success you want. It's the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And when you kill your story and jump that gap, you become fulfilled, happy, and satisfied with you. So I want to give you something that will help you get there. It's my book called Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story, and Take Action. It's yours for free. Simply text the word GAP, G-A-P, to my personal cell phone, 213-409-8366. The word GAP, G-A-P, to my cell phone, 213-409-8366. 409-8366. Let me help you start the change that will bring success and satisfaction into your life. As an executive business coach and speaker, it's what I do every day. My name is Coach Dan Gordon, and if you have the courage, and if you're a bold entrepreneur, I will help you too. Well, let me tell you about my guest, Audra Gold. She is the CEO and founder of Vurbl.com. That's Vurbl.com. Vurbl is a new audio sharing platform that's unlike anything we've ever seen on the planet Earth ever before. For over 20 years, Audra has worked with startups, building cutting-edge technologies and bringing game-changing ideas to the world. Through a lot of success and a lot of failures, Audra has gained a unique perspective on how to build digital products that use web-based technologies. In other words, Audra has figured out how to build all the cool shit we love using online. Before creating Vurbl, Audra was founder and managing director of Product N, a consulting firm for startups. She was the VP for Rubicon Project, the VP for The Mighty, the VP for Nat Mobile, the VP for Fourth Wall Studios, and the VP of Pluto TV, a landmark digital video streaming platform. I think Audra started Vurbl just because she was tired of being the VP of everything. Audra created Vurbl to provide free audio content over the internet. Free. You can upload and monetize your audio in a way that no other platform has ever offered. We are so fortunate to have Audra here to share that and so much more. Audra Gold, welcome, welcome, welcome to Shock to the System.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I have been researching you. I feel like I know you already. I have a million questions, but would you please give us the pitch and explain to my audience what Vurbl is? Which might be ironic because this is probably on Vurbl right now.
Yes. So the way I always explain it, the shortest way possible, is we are like the YouTube of audio. So that means anyone with a voice, anyone with some audio, anyone with content that they want to get out there that's audio based, you can publish it for free on Vurbl and find an audience for free on Vurbl. And we also have a framework a lot like YouTube in terms of monetization. So any creator that has any success on our platform can overnight, they can start making money on their content, and we do revenue shares with them.
Cool. So, yeah. and like for clarity, how is Vurbl different than like SoundCloud and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and things like that?
Essentially what Spotify does is ingest a bunch of podcasts, right, and publish them, and they make a directory out of them. And then they'll tell you what the top 20 is or top 100 or whatever. Same with Apple. They're just ingesting a podcast feed, right? They put some categories around it, but that's it. They don't do anything else for the creator other than that. So the creator doesn't have access to the community directly right there. They can't take over their station and mix in other types of audio. They can't qualify to earn ad revenue from Spotify or from Apple. So those are simply directory services, and it's all the same directory services that every other podcast directory service has.
Yeah.
What we do, podcast is just one piece of our universe, right? We ask creators to join us and volunteers and our own staff, we curate. And so we help you find things on out of millions of files, the good stuff in categories you care about. So we've got hundreds of topics, themes, we've got thousands of playlists now that have all been organized by humans. And it's really a way for discovery of audio like no place else. The one caveat is that we do not offer the published catalog music. We're not licensing any music, so we're not trying to compete with the music platforms, but we're everything else but that. So
and the other cool thing is it's free.
Yeah, and it's free. We're not trying to get your credit card. We want you to come by, find some great audio. You might hear a few ads to support the creators on the platform, and that's the only cost to you is
like when I signed up for Vurbl, I was so surprised. Like I just filled out one little thing and that's it. I'm on.
Yeah.
And really love it. I'm going to dive into how this all started. You have a lot of experience in the world of video streaming, and it's a pretty simple intellectual jump going from sharing video to sharing audio. But the reason there aren't a million Vurbls out there is because it's only obvious after someone creates it, right? So how did you conceive of this? And what brought it to your consciousness, and what told you it was a good idea?
Right. So basically, coming from the world of video, I was one of the early online video pioneers. I was at one of the first UGC viral video sites on the internet called break.com, if any of you out there remember that. And so I've spent many years studying human behavior online around video consumption, content consumption. I work for a lot of digital media companies that, publishing both text and video based content. I've learned how people consume, how to grow audiences, how to leverage, where to find audience, and how to plug into the general ecosystem of the internet. All of those things that I saw, I started to, a couple years ago, recognize a lot of the patterns that I noticed from video in the early days. I saw a lot of the same things happening in audio today. And I was like, wait a minute, why is audio working in such an archaic way? The frameworks here look like video looked in 2006, 2007, 2008, back when we were pioneering, right, streaming video online. So why did audio get stuck in this download space, right? It just doesn't make any sense today.
A lot of entrepreneurs have these great ideas, and most of them stay on the drawing board. How did you move Vurbl from the drawing board into reality?
When all the pieces clicked for me in 2019, which is when I got this idea, which is, oh my God, audio is totally behind. Oh my gosh, it looks exactly like video. And by the way, I know how to solve those problems that we solved in video. Let's apply that to audio. And I was like, this opportunity is so massive. It's so huge that I would never be able to live with myself if I didn't pursue it. And luckily, because I've been building startups for 20 years, I knew exactly what it looked like and what it takes to take an idea,
right,
and building these products. So I know exactly how to do it. And so really what my only limiting factor was going to be was funding, right? But getting the money to fund it was what I knew would be the challenge. And so really, I knew how to put together the plan. I knew how to put together a pitch. And then I luckily had a great network in the venture community because of all the work I've done in startups.
Yeah.
So then I was able to take that big idea, communicate in a way that got people excited about it, and then get the check.
And what you just said is so key. You said, I couldn't not do it. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't do this. And I work with entrepreneurs all the time. And there's just a select few bold entrepreneurs who have that in them, that thing that you just said. There's so many ideas that sit on the drawing board and so many ideas that go, well, when I get around to it. But when you come to a point where you say, I just can't live with myself if I don't do it, that's the distinguishing factor.
Yeah. And that is. And then I have, like I said, luckily I have a lot of experience in the execution side. And so I've heard every idea under the sun, right? I got people pitching me ideas all day long. Oh, I want to build this. I want to do this. I want to do that.
What's the weirdest one or the worst one that you've ever heard?
I've heard a lot of really bad ideas and a lot of great ideas too, right? But a lot of times I hear ideas and it's not the right time, or it doesn't really a working business model, or it doesn't play out in some way or the other. I worked in VR for a while, virtual reality and augmented reality, which way ahead of its time. We were building these products in 2010. So we were very limited in what we could do with VR and AR back then. But it's those are cool ideas. This is a cool product, but it's too early. It's not, the ecosystem's not ready to support this type of content, right?
And so I want to get into what it's like to create something like this, because my audience, the people that I work with and talk to, are the creators. They are the bold entrepreneurs. They are the people who want to do great things, but struggle. And so how do you manage the stress that naturally comes up in this kind of enterprise?
Yeah, I think one of my greatest assets is my ability to compartmentalize. I really only focus on very near-term goals and work obsessively to achieve those. And I know if I get that goal, then we get to the next goal and so on and so forth. If I today started thinking about all the things we need to accomplish in the next year, I would probably explode. So I do try, of course, I keep the big vision there in the background somewhere, but on the day-to-day and what I really focus my energy on, it's very near-term and achievable goals, right?
Did those thoughts ever seep in, where you start, I'm going down that road?
Yeah, I've had a few meltdowns, especially building this company during quarantine. There's been a lot of scary moments of, are we going to survive or not? But,
and how did you move through that? What's your tools? What's your methodology of moving through that?
Well, you usually you sleep on it. I'll do some meditate. I do a lot of sleep sounds and meditation, of course, at night to help me sleep, because sleep is the number one thing you need, I think, to just be making clear-headed decisions and keeping energy high and all that. You've got to sleep. And then second, I wake up the next day, and inevitably in startup land, you're going to, for every really hard day, there's going to be a great day right around the corner. And sure enough, if you just keep telling, I got to just get up and start pitching again. Let's say, I'll give you an example of like raising money, right? You might
right.
10 no's in a row. You're starting to feel hopeless. You're starting to feel desperate. And then the next day you wake up, you do a pitch and somebody totally gets it and wants in. And it's just, okay. I'm not crazy. So I'm going to keep going. And you get reinvigorated from that positive event. And so it really is. It's exactly like a roller coaster.
And what you just said though is, it is transmuting the feeling of desperation, right? Because what you just said is, for every bad day or days, there's a great day right around the corner, right? Mm-hmm. And where most people get stuck in this kind of situation is they're not making money, and they start to believe that this is the way it's going to be forever. But what you've done is you've essentially said, this bad feeling I'm having right now means that there's a good feeling right around the corner.
You have to also understand, are these signals that we're going in the wrong direction? Are these signals that I'm saying the wrong things or doing the wrong things? So I also use those really hard moments to say, is there something we need to change? Did we go down the wrong path here? And so being able to be very flexible and nimble and responsive to those moments too is really important.
And that's great, because there is no meter, right? There is no little dial that says, keep at it or turn around and go the other way. So how do you manage that? Like, how do you know internally when you've pushed as far as you can push in a direction and you say, no, we're headed down the wrong path here. It's time to about face.
Yeah. At this point, I think, again, I'll chalk it up to a lot of experience. I have a lot of intuition, and when you've done 10 startups, right? You've been inside of 10 startups. Some of them were massive successes and some of them were failures, and you start to see what are the signs that something's not going to work, and how do you course correct for that. And I've watched startups nosedive. I could see it coming too. If you can watch a car crash, sometimes it's an investor that can take you down because they're very overbearing or forcing you to do.
So it sounds like you take direct and immediate action.
Yes.
Rather than,
if anyone described me, they would describe me probably first and foremost as very decisive. And because I'm not afraid to make the wrong decision, because I think I've got pretty good instincts. But look, we all make bad decisions sometimes, and it's not going to, one bad decision isn't going to kill us. It's going to be 4 in a row, right? Or something like that.
And that is a perspective that's very hard to get into the minds of an entrepreneur who is struggling with the fear of failure. It's not going to kill you. And you got 3 or 4 more failures coming up anyway. You just might as well start, because when you say you have intuition, everybody go, oh God, she's so lucky. But it's not luck. It's surviving all the failure, or thriving all the failure that you've been through to build that intuition. That message is so important, that if you want to have a really exciting life and do amazing things, it takes being knocked down a couple of pegs, pretty frequently at first.
Yeah, I've had extraordinary amounts of failures, right? Especially in the early days of the internet, we were making up the rules. We were defining, how should we build an online registration form? Oh my God, I have to figure out, how do I take a payment? You know what I mean? We used to build the connections to the payment processors. We tried a lot of things that did not work.
It sounds like you just got used to, I wouldn't even call it a mistake. Like, you go down a road, that road didn't work. You turn around and head the other direction, but without a lot of negative self-reflection. But it sounds to me like you kept the vision in mind of what you want to create, the bigger picture.
Exactly. My entire life, I've always just lived as a learning experience. And so to me, success is learning.
Did your parents foster that kind of thinking, or is that just something that you think you're born with?
I think some people are born with more natural curiosity than others. Some people are born with much higher risk tolerance than others. I'm both of those things. So yeah, I think a lot of it was probably just baked in, but I had a very supportive family environment where we were told we could do whatever we wanted pretty much. I didn't have much oversight. So we were just I grew up with a family of 4. We had there's 4 kids in my family and a single mom. And, we were just all off on our own. So
it's so interesting, Audra, because that could have gone in one of 2 completely different directions, like no oversight with a kid and a teen. You can end up in all kinds of dark places.
Yeah.
But
and a lot of the time I ended up in the library reading 20 books about veganism when I was 10 and decided that I was going to be a vegan and I was now going to start cooking for myself, which I did and still have been since that day. So yeah, I spent a lot of time in the library before the internet.
And so when you started Vurbl, you must have thought, gee, I got 20 years of success in the startup business and in the tech business. Probably people are going to open their checkbooks pretty easily for me, but that's not what happened, is it?
No, you would think, right? Look at all these things I've built and look at this idea makes so much sense. Yeah,
but what happened?
Write me a check, right? No, they did not. They did not want to write me any checks. Nobody wanted to write me a check. I pitched for an entire summer, probably to, 200.
200 people.
Probably something like
200 pitches, okay? And time after time, you're getting told, no, it's not going to work. We're not interested. We don't believe in this. Yeah. How do you keep the faith throughout that?
I'm telling you, it's just because I know this idea needs to be built. I just have that in my mind. This has to exist. It makes too much sense. I will not take no. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep going until we get this money. And I also could convince a lot of very high paid, smart people to work with me for free or for 1/2 of what they would normally work for, right? So
wait, so you're skipping over something that's really important. And I think you're skipping over because it's just who you are. And what it is like you got people to work for free or very little money. I interviewed Glenn Stearns, who was on the show Undercover Billionaire, where he goes in this little town and he has to start $1 million business in 90 days. And he's like, nobody knows that he's a billionaire, right? But he got people to work with him for free or very little money. And I said, how did you do that? And what he talked about is being able to inspire people. So what do you do to inspire people to do what they wouldn't normally do or work for almost nothing?
Well, first and foremost is you've got to have a good story to inspire them with. And Vurbl is a great story, especially for people that come from video. And so they all understood what I was saying in a way that, most people wouldn't.
Yeah.
And so, but then I brought that plus my energy and passion because I was telling them, you guys, this cannot fail. And look, this is how we're going to build it exactly. And this is why it's going to work. And this is how we're going to get traffic. And this is how we're going to plug in monetization. And so I had every single question they could think of as to why this won't work. I had it answered. And so I think that got them excited too. And they were like, wow, so this really could be huge, couldn't it? Wow. And then they got really into the idea. And then, it's infectious once you really get
right. And it's infectious because you are relentless. You are relentless about things that you have passion, right?
Yeah.
And that works for you. Like I always say, we have internal superpower, and our superpower is also our kryptonite. It works for us and it definitely works against us. Where does your relentlessness work against you sometimes?
Relationships sometimes. That might be when too much passion is a little troublesome. So, and again, sometimes I think because I have so much passion for something, I see it so clearly. And then I have very deep knowledge about what I'm, trying to communicate to someone, but I can be very hard on people around me, right? Like sometimes you have an expectation for everyone to be understanding everything you're talking about and doing everything the way it needs to be done or think it needs to be done, right? And so some of that can, I think, be very tough on the people around you. And some people are up for it and some people are not. So
I have to remind myself to thank people because I just look at it, man, like it's the excitement. And that really creates a problem sometimes. It's like, Dan, are you happy with anything I'm doing? I'm happy with everything. Oh, that's right. The humans need to be thanked. Okay.
I do get that feedback. For sure. Like, hey, did I do anything well this week?
Yeah. And that also talking about relationships, and not just being personal relationships, but business relationships, you're kind of a solo act, right? You don't have mentors. You tend to rely on yourself. Do you think that you have a mistrust of people?
No, I think my lack of support generally through being in tech career my whole life and having pretty much almost every male leadership figure completely marginalized me since I started my career. In some cases, sexually harassed me, right? Like,
I bet, yeah.
There was no one that ever took me under their wing or had any interest in helping me. So I just was like, I feel like I had a career of just fighting to get, stuff done that I knew needed to be done or something. I never saw anyone take any interest in helping me. I never saw anyone try to like get me the promotion over the other person who ends up getting promoted with 5-10 years less experience than me. I had that happen to me all the time.
I think, and you may disagree with me on this, but I think that's part of what attracted you to tech. When it's going to be difficult, when the odds are against you, like when it seems impossible and the chips are down, that's where Audra shines.
Yeah, pretty much. And and the less resources I have, the better I tend to do as well. So it's something about that sweet spot of pain, like suffering and pain. But
yes,
I always am having fun doing it because I love building this stuff online and watching people use them and enjoy them and share them and build on top of them and all that. So
what is in this for you? Why Vurbl? It's not for the money. It's not for the fame. It's not because you want to get on Dan's podcast. Why are you doing this?
The only answer I have for that is this, because I see it so clearly. I honestly, I just think this needs to be built. I think there's a huge place for this type of platform too. I was like, God, the more that we can step away from the video and let our mind do the work, right? Let our mind take the information and create the pictures. And it's just such a richer experience to me, audio. And
right. And what you're talking about, Audra, is the secret sauce of every successful entrepreneur, every game changer in the world, which is bringing this into existence will have an impact. Everybody that has been successful on this level hasn't done it for money or fame or self-gratification, but because they want to bring something new to the world. And I think for any entrepreneur out there, that's the biggest question. Like, what do you want out of this?
Yeah, totally. Look, we want to make Vurbl the biggest brand online. I think we can be bigger than even YouTube in terms of audience size because we are audio and it's so much more accessible on feature phones and those far and distant places that I was talking about. So I think there's something really beautiful about that. So think of all those voices that we just can't find because of the way that podcasts are distributed. They're just like sitting on the bottom of this massive pile that are just like sent into directories. So we're trying to break that and give all of that long tail, lesser known stuff a way to be found and a way to be consumed. And in that, I think we'll discover new superstars that we never would have found before.
Audra, I want to switch gears just a little bit. I read in an interview, you said something, and I really love it. In essence, you said that when you were part of a team, you made yourself indispensable, like unfireable. And for entrepreneurs who are looking to be part of something, it is so key that they make themselves indispensable. So what did you do to make yourself indispensable, and how can an entrepreneur do that to lock in a position that he loves?
Yeah. So in my case, because I was always sitting in the product management org in a company, I would always find the products that the company could not live without, right? So we had a .com bubble, right? The first one. And I worked in the internet back then. And when that bubble burst, all the ad revenue was going away very rapidly back then. It was disappearing overnight. And so I took on the project of finding, ways to charge customers for things that we were building, right? So then, of course, when they do big layoffs, they're getting rid of all the people working on ad-related products and keeping the people finding new revenue.
So that's key, because what money is the gas tank of any company, any business. Yeah. And so if you put yourself in the position of keeping that tank full, you're much more likely to hold on to that job.
And like you said, also just taking on stuff that other people don't want to do. It's like, it's not the sexiest thing to work on right now, but I'm going to learn something from it. And it's really crucial to the mission of the company. So that's, yeah.
I think what happens, and it might not be something that you necessarily focus on consciously, but it seems like you keep doing the right things to keep yourself in a position that you want.
Yeah, that again, like survival mechanisms.
There are people in the world who are really good at picking stocks. I think that you're really good at riding the crest of the wave of technology because you seem to always be there.
yeah, how I've always been right at the beginning of something emerging. So yeah, that's why I was getting to see how fast things can happen and understanding the mechanisms that made them get to that tipping point and understanding how to manage the tipping point once you're there.
But it's not luck, right? What's the sense that you have that says, okay, this is something I should pay attention to because this is going to blow up?
I honestly, for me, I go back to when something clicks for me and just makes so much sense based on all of the knowledge I have about, and I'll just stick with what I know, with the internet. I always use that as an example. But when I start to see, again, like patterns and things, and I understand how that's going to click and take off in this direction. When
you say the patterns, can you elaborate on that? What are the patterns that you see?
So like the patterns, let me take online ads, for instance.
Sure.
So I was part of the first wave of online advertising, right? I actually worked for a woman right out of college she was one of the co-founders of one of the first online portals. So we were building display ads, and there was a wave that you would sell display ads. It was like, okay, well, you place an order and you guarantee the impressions. So you're deconstructing
how it works as it's working. Is that fair?
So I saw the evolution of the display ad, and I know exactly what it took for that to explode. And then I saw the same thing happen with video ads. And now I see what's missing in audio ads, right? And so I'm like reverse engineering what I've already seen happening in 2 other major media formats. So when I see something that has so much synergy and clicks together, like with Vurbl, I'm like, this has to exist.
I think the takeaway here is when an entrepreneur sees something working, take it apart and see why it works.
Yes. That is a great way of putting it. That's so true. There's definitely a formula there.
Yes.
By the way, like I mentioned my viral video days, there is a formula to making content go viral. And we used to make a lot of fake videos that we said were users and just random videos that ended up going viral. But no, those were engineered to go viral by our production teams. And sure enough, they would go viral.
Okay, now I got to ask really quickly because we're short on time. Can you give the broad strokes of the formula of a viral video?
Well, there's several different applications, but generally it has to be short, right? It's got to be short form, which is why TikTok really took that to the next level. Back when we were first inventing this whole concept, right, we knew that it had to be under 2 minutes. And we knew that, there had to be an arc that draws you in slowly. Like you're not sure what it is, you got to really look closely to see what's happening. And then you have to have the payoff 10 seconds before the end of the video. You always want. And the payoff has to be big and extraordinary and unexpected, right? So
right on.
But and we could make these all day long with someone on a roof doing something, walking, right? And our team who was making them, they would be sourcing videos too. They would dig around YouTube and Russian websites and wherever else all day long, and they knew the patterns, and they would pull the ones, elevate, buy the rights to the video from the maker, and then it would go explode.
Oh, so one of the things I do in my world of coaching is I focus primarily on sales training. And I do that because, well, one, I can nearly guarantee that people will get paid back for the money that they pay me, which I like. And the other is that anything that you struggle with shows up in a sales interaction. Like if you struggle with self-confidence, if you struggle with the message of your company, it's going to show up in a sales interaction. What is your strategy of sales? How do you formulate your sales process?
Because I've sat inside of a dark room with engineers most of my life, my weakest point is probably my salesmanship. But generally, for me, everything has to point into a very big vision, a big picture. And it has to point to something that's like, why does this ultimately matter so much? And so everything's leading into something very big and very extraordinary generally, even if it's like an ad unit. Oh, this flash ad that you can put a form inside of the ad. It's so cool. You would turn that little dumb ad unit story into like, oh my God, and you can completely revolutionize your business if you can get, so many more emails, you can change the game for whatever. So you're just telling these really big stories about things that don't seem very significant.
But you make them significant.
Yeah.
Right? Like I say this a lot. Like good salespeople don't sell things, they sell happy futures. Right? They sell this place that you want to live in. And so I think you fell backwards into doing that really well because you have so much enthusiasm for what you do, that your enthusiasm boils over into, wow, look at this cool world with this thing that I've made now. And so you should really give me some money so you can live in that cool world too.
Yeah, exactly.
You had a really cool quote that I like where you said that essentially the reason that sales teams fail is they really don't know what they're selling. And, it seems like you've been in situations where sales teams that you either are on or working under or around don't really know their product well enough. What have you done with Vurbl to make sure that the people selling it understand it well enough to sell it effectively?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, so we have had to have a lot of just internal education generally, because audio is a very nuanced world and there's a lot of confusion about different ad formats and understanding the difference between podcasting and streaming and things like that. So, we do a lot of education and talks and training and things like that. But also when we think about hiring, who's our head of sales, hiring a leader with very deep understanding of the ecosystem, I think is very important, especially for a company at our stage, because you can hire someone who's sold video ads great for years, but they don't really understand the nuances and the challenges in audio advertising. Then it's going to be a hard road, to get them up to shine in that space.
That's a great point, because in my experience, that people tend to look at salespeople or sales leaders as like, well, you sell, just go sell this. You can sell anything. But the best salespeople really love their product and understand their product.
Yeah, totally.
I can't sell anything that I'm not a customer of. And so I would guess that the people who are selling have audio content, or at the very least understand the nature of every aspect of your platform.
Well, the people that have been out there talking to the agencies about why they haven't bought audio all these years. What do they need to make them buy audio ads? A lot of our partners too, our ad partners that we're just starting to plug into the platform, they're at big ad networks. They're like, God, we've got so many people wanting open market audio ad supply. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's not really out there, is it? Like, we're building something for that. It's coming. We hear you. We know you're lined up raising your hand saying you want to buy audio this way. So we're creating an environment that supports the exact way that you want to buy and track, and measure your audio ads. So I know I'm building a solution looks exactly like what people want. So
you've given a lot of the success for Vurbl to your team, and a team is only as good as its leader. So you've been on a lot of teams throughout your career. You've probably seen great team leaders and really poor team leaders. What have you learned about the poor team leaders that you fixed in your leadership of Vurbl?
The poor team leaders are the ones that have completely marginalized certain members of their leadership team. But you hired them because they're the best at what they do and they're visionary. And then you go and micromanage and marginalize what they're bringing to the table. I've seen that kind of behavior demoralize so many people around me and create the most toxic, unhappy situations. Nothing has ever torn me up as much as being hired to be an expert at what I do and then being told I don't know what I'm doing and not let me do what's right for the company. So I think I let my experts do their jobs and I depend on them to give me.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to point that out. You let your experts do their jobs.
I see founder after founder just be too overbearing with their micromanaging everything and not letting go and And
I think you have to let your people fail. You have to let them make mistakes.
Yeah, I let them fail and then I fire them if I have to. You can't be afraid to fire people either. So you got to let people do their thing. And when they're showing you that they're not really as great as you thought they were, you got to take care of it. It's your responsibility to the health of the company to take care of those kinds of situations as fast as possible.
I would guess that firing isn't your first line of defense, but if somebody isn't pulling their weight, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, if they're combative, then it's your responsibility to Vurbl, not to yourself, to either get them to change or replace them. And that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand. It's you work for your company too. You just have the most responsibility, but you have to put your company before yourself.
Absolutely. And another thing that I think with the reason why venture can work so well, taking on venture investment, is because I also feel a very strong responsibility to return my investors money in spades, right? I want my investors to come out of this investment very happy and very successful. And I think about that every day too. I think about people placed a bet on me. I want that bet to pay off for them in a big way. They gave us the ability to create this great thing. Let's make it so that we can reward them for that, for taking that risk on us.
That's beautiful. And that is a philosophy that not everybody has, but you're taking that level of responsibility, creates an environment where people have that level of dedication in Vurbl. You know, we're not just building something here. We also have a responsibility to people who believe in us.
And it's never personal. This isn't about Audra's ego. This is about us doing the right thing to build this great thing, right?
It's very easy for people to judge you in that way. Like, oh, Audra's just doing that because she's the boss or she's full of herself. Yeah. And that are the slings and arrows that people in a leadership position have to deal with. And again, you can't take it personally either.
Yeah, I have to remind myself of that all the time. And a great book that I always like to recommend to everyone that works with me is by Ryan Holiday called Ego is the Enemy. And I just think that's a great, just the way he's articulated business and business behavior as it relates to ego and understanding ego-driven behavior versus like company or vision-driven or mission-driven behavior. It gave me a good framework and vocabulary.
That's nice. Yeah. I was sure that you were going to say jumping the gap, kill your story, and take action, but what a shameless plug. Audra, this has just been
my second favorite. No.
Thanks. You haven't even read it. This has been just so wonderful, Audra. I've never been able to interview somebody like in the process of creating something great. The people that I've interviewed, they've already attained a level of success and we know them, but you're right in the thick of it. And that's so exciting. And the suggestions and the insight that you have for my audience, for entrepreneurs, is just invaluable. And so thank you very much for coming on Shock to the System and being a part of this.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you for your kind words and your support. It means a lot, especially now, right? We love our big supporters. You guys make our daily job so much easier.
I just love what you're doing. And I want to remind my audience that you can get my blueprint for success called Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story, and Take Action. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to my cell phone, 213-409-8366. I also want to thank you. Yeah, you, the you who is listening to the show right now. Thank you for opening your mind and stepping into the world of infinite possibilities. Audra and all of my guests breathe the same air that you do. There's nothing stopping you from taking bold action, opening up your world, challenging yourself to step up and live your life unlimited. I'm Coach Dan Gordon. Thanks for listening to Shock to the System. Now get out there and show the world the next greatest version of you. Hey, if you have some thoughts about the show you'd like to share with us, or if you think you're Shock to the System guest material, send me a text at 213-409-8366. Let me know what you think, or let me know why you think you'd be a great guest for this show. Thanks again for listening. I hope you're inspired to unleash your inner superhero on the world.